Yep, I also did a quick video just showing you guys how to rebuild a Sinclair C5 motor. So this one here, project, belt's currently off. So all you do, first of all, is if your motor is actually good, you just want to rebuild it, make it a bit quicker, check it out, all that sort of stuff. But it's all fine. What I would do is I would definitely put a Sharpie mark. Put a Sharpie mark on the casing just here, and another one just here, or here, wherever you want to put it, it's fine. I put one at the top normally. And that way you know when you put the motor back in again later, you can get the tension exactly as it was by putting it straight in and twisting it so those two lines mark up. If you want to make it tighter, and the belt, so when you put the belt on, you're meant to be able to sort of push down your thumb here on the belt and feel the play. You don't want it too tight, otherwise it puts too much strain through the motor and it stretches the belt. Obviously too loose means that when you go to accelerate from pedal starts, you get a clicking noise. That's basically an evil noise that happens when the belt slips on the gear down there. So a little bit of sort of fine tuning, you know, but also it's down to the condition of the belt. If the belt's knackered or stretched, you know, it'll never be right. Normally the teeth on here are normally completely fine, but the teeth on here are often mullered, you know, already worn out. In which case, if they are, and once you take the motor out, you can put the belt on it and just see how they sit on the teeth. If you've got one, you know, one to compare it against, it's obvious if one's worn out or not. But normally you can put the belt on, and you better see if if the belt sits nicely on the teeth here to determine if it's worn out or in good shape. Again, if that's knackered or worn out, you're never really going to get it spot on unless you don't weigh much. You're always going to get a bit of slip. And obviously these gearboxes are getting quite rare, and sort of 50 quid, that kind of money, sort of all day long really. Luckily one person in the group does make metal ones, so you've got some option there. So anyway, so yeah, mark it up on here, loosen off the 10mm, and then effectively if your belt on, you can just twist it like that, and it comes out. Let's have a quick look at this one here. So yeah, that's out. So now we'll do video 2. Yeah, it's now part 2. So now we say the motor's loose, it's now ready to come out. What you do is get a small screwdriver, and you can put it in here, and you put out the first temperature probe on the ends. So normally it's a cable tied together, and then the next one here just unclips, so you don't lose the little metal bracket. Cool. And then your motor, take it out. Cool. Put it on there. Now what I normally do is I normally rest this motor on a block of wood. So let me go and grab that now. Yep, so now we've got the motor out, resting on a block of wood. Of course you could remove any of these cable ties if you want to. You haven't got to. This one luckily just comes off. Okay, and then you get your motor, so you can twist it here, see how it feels. And obviously it shouldn't be seized, it should move smoothly. This one here feels like quite graunchy, so it probably needs some work on this one, I expect. So this is a project C5, so I've never driven it, never rode it, but I always just rebuild the motors, you know, to have just so you know what they're like inside when you finish off building it and test it. So next up, you want to get some small screwdrivers, which are here. Okay, so I'll try and film this just on here. Cool. So what you do is you first want to hook out these motor braids. So you get a screwdriver in there to make sure it's filming all right. Yeah. And these are often the part that causes motors not to work. The brushes themselves attached to these braids just get stuck in the holder, or get stuck in one position where it hasn't been used for years and years and don't move. So normally you can get a small screwdriver like this, gently just pull it, and you should be able to feel the spring. And obviously if you can't feel anything, with a little bit of force, spray some WD-40 down there, maybe poke it downwards to try and release it, and then pull it upwards, and basically I can feel a nice little spring. So what you get your small screwdriver, and effectively just do this. This just pulls the brush out ever so slightly. Do the same for the other side. So hook out both of the braids. Make sure it's moving. I don't know if that's on film or not, but that's moving. And I'll wedge something in there like that. Okay, cool. And next up, you need to do the matchstick technique. Which that's still filming, so apologies for the camera work, but this is a quick video, you know. Just get get a bunch of matchsticks, and what you do is you bend this open slightly and you insert your matchstick in there, and you can use other things. You can probably use cable ties. Sinclair made a proper tool, a metal tool that you sort of slips on. You put your 6 matchsticks in, 3 in there. What it does is that just pushes this part here, this locking part here upwards, so this gearbox here can come off. Twist over. Again, apologies for shocking camera work, but you know, I want to get this done today. Okay, so you just bend it open with your fingers, and actually one point to note is this one here, as you can see, is what they call the white gearbox here. So it's a white gearbox, and it's the white fingers here and the outside. If you have one with the early ones had the brown fingers here. These were the brown fingers, and those ones there, as soon as you bend them, they just snap off. So Sinclair replaced them really swiftly with these slightly flexible plastic. The brown ones, it's a different technique, but basically you can't do this technique here. You have to kind of like take the motor apart from the opposite side, kind of thing. It's not ideal. Basically, the brown ones really are kind of like trash, really. And you want to update it to these ones. Cool. So that's that. Next up, get your screwdriver, and then you rest it against plastic bit here at an angle, and ultimately just gently hit it. See, all the matchsticks ping out. Put this back in the box before I lose any of them. Don't want the wife saying where's all the matchsticks gone. Okay, obviously that side there is pinged out already, so you can see it on there, it's pinged off. And obviously sometimes that's a bit more stiff to come off. You might have to put the matchsticks in again sometimes, but normally that technique works fine. Gently lever off. So you've got the seal, or the seal for any water getting in. So you get your gearbox here. So you can see the teeth, they're in good condition. They're it's got lots of sort of water or something in there. This bearing here, normally this bearing here wouldn't come off. This would normally be attached in the end here. I've never seen one come off like that. And I'm twisting that, and I can feel that bearing is basically seized. And it looks seized as well. Yeah, so that bearing there should just spin around. Should stay in the gearbox, and it should spin around. Okay, but that bearing there is definitely seized, so I'll have to pull it off in a minute. And what I do is to unseize those, I put them back into here, and I've got literally a piece of wood at an angle that I can push in, and then I can grip this, and then twist the wood, and that gently twists the inner part of the bearing. I've never ever had one stuck on there. And then we can take off that. So let me grab a screwdriver quickly. Okay. So next up, put the screwdriver in there. You can gently take it off. And obviously you don't want to leave it on this piece here. Just want to leave it just on here, just on the top there. That comes off. You can inspect your planetary gears, and those if you can see that, those all look good. That's good, excellent. Put that there. There's your two of your bearings here. Now often one or both of these snap off, and then you look inside here, and then your bearing will be sat inside there. That happens, you can't repair that apart from the changing at the core of the motor, which you can obviously look online, get a new core for about 50 quid, and you can do it. You can still use that, but obviously without that part there, it adds a lot more stress through the system here, and if you're any adult weight, you're just going to destroy your gearbox. If you're a child, it'll probably be fine. So I'd highly recommend it. If those two bearings snap off, then that core effectively is trash. Chuck it in recycling, whatever. and then go and get another one. Well, don't chuck it away yet, but chuck it away once you get a new one, because literally it's trash. Now next up, undo this, under the case. Now this part here, let's try and get a slightly better angle on the old camera. That probably is no benefit at all. What you do is you put a markup on it. So I put a markup on the plastic here, markup on the case, and markup on the back section. So got some markups here, markups there. Cool. And I know people say get a tripod, yeah, but this is just for other people's benefits. You know, might be some use to people. You know, not doing this to make any money, just help people out, sort of thing. Hence why it's not a proper professional setup. You know. Cool. So we do that. Undo those 2.7mm. Cool. Take these out, and then now the case should come apart with a little bit of a tap on the flat pieces here. Sometimes the cases just pull apart sometimes. Okay. That's that one. There's your motor. Oh, there's some massively evil spider in there. Okay. A little close up of that. This is actually a key. This one here for spiders is absolutely horrendous. It's right in there. Cool. Okay, so we'll knock that spider out. There it goes. Get away a bit. Closely. Okay, that's underneath there. Cool. So now we'll take this bit here off. And normally I'd obviously just pull those off with by hand. Oops. Okay, so now the next part, to get the two cases apart. So what you can do is you can effectively just tap it. You can just tap it just on here and here, and obviously that should then release this. Cool. So there's your motor core there. So that just pushes out. Put it on there. Now you have a look at the bearings in here. Now often the bearings here are glued onto this metal part here, and these bearings here the glue breaks off, in which case I believe that's the whole thing is again it's trash. It's quite rare, but if you find your motor sort of spin down, makes a graunching noise, it can often be because the bearings come away with the glue. So that looks good. And you've got your two washers here. So your flat washer, and then you've got your curved washer. The curved washer goes in first, and the flat washer goes in next when you reassemble it. And you can see the technique here of holding the screwdrivers in. And basically the screwdriver here holds the brushes in. So when you come to reassemble it, you haven't got to sort of poke the brushes in from the inside and hold them that way whilst you assemble it. Because obviously if you break these, you know, you're in a lot of trouble, because you have to go back, buy another one of those. Basically, you can, you know, buy somewhere brushes of a different motor and try and squeeze them in and fit them, but in my opinion, they're never going to work properly. Or generally speaking, for the average person, they're not going to work properly. So that's that, yeah. So again, so what I'll do now is I'll clean this all up, I'll clean that up on there. We'll have a look at this. And again, you can see that spider's been living. You'll clean this off here with well, you give the whole thing a good clean, and then you'll clean this off here with a light sandpaper to get it back to shiny. That's obviously the bearing that's smooth. Often these are seized, they're going to oil the bearing up. This bearing here feels much better, so oil that up, oil those up as well. the gear looks in good condition, so it just looks disgusting. This bearing here is the key one. It's clearly seized. There's a spider again. So I'll clean all these bits up. I'll get this bearing here off. I'll release it, hopefully in some releasing fluid with that bit of wood technique. Clean everything up and then reassemble it. And obviously we've got those red marks here. So we know how to assemble it back together again. Right, let's go for it. Yep, I also now show you the assembly technique. So what I've done is you pull the screwdrivers out, then obviously the brushes come out. Then I always apply a little bit of just the standard grease on just on the sides of each brush, just a little smear, little tiny smear just around the outside, just to keep it sort of lubricated, so that if you do park out for a couple of years, you know, in your shed or garage, then chances are the brushes will still be fine and still move freely when you come to use it in a few years' time. So that's that. Back in. So I've cleaned up the parts which are there. Now this is the very advanced tool for releasing the bearing. So this bearing here was seized. So you find a piece of wood, you angle it like that using a screwdriver. I've got an official one here. There's now got 2 worn out at that end for it to work. So this is version 2. Basically plonk it on and just basically sprayed it with WD-40, oil, that sort of stuff. And now it spins round. But once you hold it in place, sorry, it now spins around really nicely. On there. Yeah. So that's that. So and I then use my bicycle wet lube just to put a bit of oil on the bearings. And what I'll do is I will actually put a little bit of grease on the bearings as well. But yeah, that's the tool you need there to release it. So going back to here. So really should try and get some sort of better setup for this. This is horrendous. Let's stick it up there. I could edit it, but it's fine, I can't bothered. Right, cool. Okay, I know it's a bit far away, but that's fine. Right. Actually, let's put it a bit fucking closer. Oh, this is absolute shit. Right. For fuck's sake. Right, we'll edit all that shit out. Right, okay. So here we are. So yeah, get these. Put your curved one in first, then your flat one, and you get this. So you see I've lightly sanded it out. I've lubricated the bearings. Literally a bit of oil. There. It's cool. That then pushes into there. And you see that now it's pushed in. There's plenty of room for the brushes, so it's not touching at all, which is cool. Now you get your half of the case. So I can plonk that. Sake, really is shit. Okay, plonk that on there. Now you've got a little notch on the side here. Goes on the notch there. That. Push it on there. So you've got the marks on the side here as well. Cool, that's on. So this one is a little bit tight. Normally just push it on and it's fine. Cool. Perfect. Then you get your newly cleaned cover. And again I put the mark on it, which is there. And then the marks there. On that. They have to be lined up so that the bolt holes, if you can see that on the bolt holes on the top are in the right place. And you just wiggle this round here a little bit until it clips on. And obviously you'll see as well like different shaded coloured parts. Cool, and that's on sweet. Make sure your motor spins. Okay, it spins nicely. And obviously it's not attached here. Now you can pull the screwdrivers out. Oh, and hear the brushes clip back in. your 7mm bolts. Those obviously, if the cover's lined up, should be spot on. Goes on, and these haven't got to be overly tight. Just, I don't know what the official foot-pounds is, but I shall show you what I do. Can I just make sure that's on camera? Yep. That's tight there. The other one, and then I just give it a bit of an extra sort of half turn. Cool. There we are. Because it's going into plastic there. That's that. Get your seal. Put that into there. Which is cool. Now you get your gearbox, which is here, and your gears. So you get a bit of grease. Put each grease on there. Just on film again. So you just need a little bit of grease. You don't need too much, but you could probably put loads on it, but it's pointless. Get your planetary gears, spin those on as you push them on. On there. I put a little bit of grease in the bottom. And slots on top. Oh, actually, one thing. I have put a little bit of oil in there because I loosened it, but I always put a bit of grease in there as well. In the unofficial manual, the Para New manual, he says they put bit of multi-purpose grease in there as well. Okay, that pushes on. Pushes it on firmly, or you can give it a light tap with a rubber mallet if you need to. Next up is your gearbox case, which has been cleaned. Get my bearing and put it back in. Obviously, normally the bearing won't come out normally, but that's in. It spins around really nice, really smooth. A little bit of grease on there, and sort of push it into the bearing. Really easy stuff. And you don't want too much grease, otherwise I find if you have too much grease it slows things down, it sort of tends to clog it up. And then your grease, and then effectively you can put it on to, you want it on the planetary gears. So by putting it on here, it will go in the same place. So I just put a few smears on there. You don't need loads. You can use silicone grease, all sorts of different types of grease, but I just use the standard LM Castrol grease, which is cool. More on there. That's sort of level there, so you don't need loads at all. And then line it up. So on one of these here, if you can see that, it's got a little groove on it there. That lines up with the groove that's there. So I'm just going to adjust it around here so I can see it easier. Nice and straight, so it's lining up in the groove. Wiggle it downwards, and then obviously you'll need to twist the gearbox a little bit so that everything lines up with the teeth on planetary gears, line up with the teeth on here. That goes on, that clips into place, and that's beautiful. And this actually is a late gearbox. This is a really nice condition one. It spins round, and hear the grease moving. It's not overly tight as it shouldn't be. Have a look on there. And that's that. So have a look at the condition of this gearbox. It's in really good condition. So you can see the square parts of the top of each teeth. Now when it's worn out, it'll just all look smooth. You won't see the square sort of points at the top. And also when the belt goes on, it won't sit nicely. That's when it starts getting a click in. If you're, say, for a child, it doesn't matter so much because you can normally adjust it tight. But if you're an adult with weight, 12, 30, 40, 15 stone, it'll probably slip and click, and then really this part is knackered, so you either need a new one of those in plastic or a new one in metal. So that's all good. And you can see to adjust this, it's not, this part here isn't round. So you can see here it's thin here and it's wide here. So it's on a cam basically. So when you put it into here, you can twist it around, and obviously as you twist it around one way, it tightens the drive belt. And so normally you'll twist it this way to tighten it up, or that way to loosen it. Okay, when you don't do it too tight, otherwise it's, you know, it'll strain the motor, and you'll hear it straining the motor. If it's too loose, it will slip, so you need it obviously in between. Cool. So what I'll do now is I'll now slot that back into there, connect up the two probes, and then I'll show you how I attach it to the belt. Now to show you guys how I get the motor in. Now, it's quite difficult to film this sort of one person, hence might be a bit shit, but it's all good. So what you do first of all is you basically just put the motor in sort of loose like this, with the 10mm undone quite a bit. You can tilt it upwards to the back in order to be able to get the belt on. So the belt's on the teeth here, if you can see that, yep. And then twist it onto the belt, so the belt's on here. And then you can obviously just push it in. And then I then push the belt on with my left hand, so it's nicely on. Now at the moment it's not, I don't know if you can see that, but it's not, the gearbox here is not sat on the rest here. So what I do is I always use a long screwdriver, and you can use various things. You can put a cable tie around here. There's an official Sinclair metal clip as well that he used, but this technique here works really well. So put this screwdriver in there, get hold of the end of the motor, and all you do is you just push it in and twist it. And I'm holding a bit of pressure on the screwdriver, just effectively just holding the screwdriver nice and flat, so it's pushing this rest nice and straight and not letting it bend in. I pushed it in now. So that's now on, and then you can go backwards whilst also keeping a lot of pressure on your left hand to keep that upright, whilst pushing the motor this way and twisting it. It's quite easy, you know. And I'm putting pressure on that, not too much. Now I'm just going to go at this midway position here for now. Okay. So I'm not sure what the status of this is. Okay, so that's now on. So it's now flat on here. It's now on the gearbox rest. Yeah. Should have got a 10mm socket set at the garage, but it's all good. So tighten that baby up. And obviously you'd normally fine tune this once you're actually riding it, or once you put the power through it. And this particular C5 has a project, so I haven't got around to the electronics yet, so I can't do that aspect. I know I could unscrew it here and turn that onto the directly onto a battery if I wanted to, but I'm gonna check that these electrics might work. You know, I haven't got around to get that far yet. Cool. So nice and tight, but again you don't want it overly ridiculously tight. I'll do for the second. We're still filming. Yep. Then you can lift it up a little bit here, and you can sort of twist it just to engage the belt, let it sort of settle in its natural position. Cool. And then you can check the belt tension. So that feels like it's quite tight. Possibly a little bit too tight, but it needs to be tight. But it's basically not bouncy. It's definitely not loose. I don't think you can see it in the film, but yeah. Okay. So I'm pushing down, you get some flex in there. So you definitely want some flex, but you don't want too much flex. You kind of need to sort of try it and see how it sounds. Like once you actually put the power on and you rev it, if it's too tight, you just get that sound of it being too tight. If it's too loose, that's fine, but when you sit in it and try and drive off in it, you'll get the clicking noise. So simple, you know, launch your screwdriver, you can just test it out, wedge it in there, loosen it off a bit, and obviously do it that way if you want to tighten it, that way if you want to loosen it. This one here, the gearbox is in good condition, and the belt looks in good condition, so I can probably loosen it off slightly, but that's why I've gone for about midway in terms of this pointing towards me, you know. And obviously you can adjust it upwards if you want to. So that's cool. And just a note as well, that if you accidentally put this casing, you know, 180 degrees round the wrong way, obviously you might find that it'll be like super tight at this angle, and you have to twist it like upwards to loosen it. So just bear that in mind, is if you put the gearbox on the non-standard way, you might have to twist your motor the other way around. So that's what's important, to get the gearbox on in the correct factory angle, so your motor with the sticker is facing you. Cool. So that feels good. So now I can get on with the fixing the electrics, or wait for my quick release connectors, and then just see if it works. Cool. Cheers.